So what is wired differently? I've got that question a lot ever since I wrote the book, Wired Differently. People want to understand what Wired Differently is, what it's about, and I want to share that with you, and I want you to read the book, right? But I want to explain to you that the reason we got to Wired Different is because I have to question so often, how did you do it? And that was a hard one for me to swallow. I didn't solve cancer. I didn't solve polio. I didn't do anything noble at all in that regards. I think people were wondering how I became successful financially. I have as many as 12 companies and a nice large conglomerate I've built over the last 30 years, and that's a whole nother side of things, but people wanted to know that. So when I finally dove in and said, well, maybe there's something going on there, when I dove into all of the success from the business perspective, it brought me back to one common denominator, and that was I was wired differently. And I think you're wired differently. I think a lot of people are wired differently in this attitudinal place of being wired differently, this high achiever and what drives us and those types of special things that make us special in that regard. But what is wired differently? So I wrote the book and I wanted to break down wired differently into 3 stages for you, 3 stages. The first stage is the genetic stage. The second stage is the attitudinal stage. And the third stage is the actualization stage. So we have 3 stages of wired differently. The first one is genetic, the second one is attitudinal, and the third one is this enlightenment or this actualization stage. I want to make sure we get those right. So let's talk about the first one, the genetic stage. It's real simple. God made us the way we were going to be made genetically. Your mom and your dad, you get together, you create a baby, and while you're baking in your mama's belly, you're cooking up about 250 million neurons every minute. Crazy, right? So when you're born, you have approximately 100 billion neurons in your baby brain. No wonder you're crying when you come out. You got a full brain of billion of neurons cooking around, and neurons are things that make us who we are, how we think, how we move, how we mold, all these things. But by the time we're 5 to 7 years old, we have actually 1,000 trillion neurons in our brain that are getting connected, forming us this genetic side of who we are wired differently. It's crazy, right? So that's genetic side of us. But out of all those neurons, the ones that get connected, the ones that stick, the ones that are influenced by our mentors, our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, our preachers, create the second stage of wired differently. And that basically all starts by the time you're 7, right? You've been formed and molded into this high achiever, this special type of person that doesn't take no for an answer and keeps on driving and does things that are just unordinary. Yeah, that's the second stage, the attitudinal stage. That's the sexy piece of the book, the piece that you want to read about, the crazy, wacky things this guy does because he is wired differently. And you'll find yourself there for sure. But the third stage, after we've been born and we've been formed into this attitudinal disorder, right? We become in this actualization stage. We've matured and we realize that we drift. We realize that our brain goes places it shouldn't go, and we got to solve those ants. We got to solve those dastardly ants. We got to realize that we are special in so many ways, but yet we're special in other ways that hurt ourselves. Yeah, we hurt ourselves because we're wired differently. We went for the first 2 stages, and we realize that we drift. And sometimes we drift to the point that we get into a comfort zone, and we drift past that, and we go right into this place called land of quo. And land of quo is a really nasty place. It's a place of mediocrity that we've drifted into. And we realize it because we're in pain. And we got to get out of the land of quo because we are wired differently. If you don't feel the pain, you don't recognize the drift, then you're going to stay average or worse. But wired differently, people recognize what's happening here, and we got to get out of the land of quo. Stage 3, actualization. That you're wired different, that you've drifted, and you got to get the heck out of the land of quo. That's the secret sauce of being wired differently. That's what made me successful. That is what will make you successful. You're wired differently. You got this. Let's do this thing called life.